And you live on the east end of Zanesville?
Well, I live I live out the
Okay. Okay, my name is Anita Jackson, and today's date is July 15th, 2006. I'm interviewing Charles Henry Lett at the Lett reunion at the Holiday Inn in Zanesville, Ohio, for the African American presence in the Ohio River Valley Oral History Project. Well, Mr. Lett, it's good that you're here, and just thank you for participating in our project. And I'm going to ask you some questions, and just want you to feel free and relax.
Be glad
and
to.
respond to the questions. First of all, let me get some background information. Say your full name. What is your full
Charles
name?
Henry Lett.
And what is your date and place of birth?
I lived in Morgan County, Deerfield Township, a place called Lemon Hill, and there's where I was born, August the 3rd, 1922.
Okay. And were you born at home?
Now, how's that again?
Were you born at home?
At home, yeah.
Okay.
And not in the hospital. The doctor came to your house at that time. This has been a long time ago, yeah. Things were a little different then.
Okay.
And when I was born, my dad told me later that my brother was born 5 years before me, and the doctor charged $10. But when I was born, it was 15.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is your family ethnic or racial background?
How's that?
What is your family ethnic or racial background?
Well, my original Sam Lett married Jemima Bannicky, and she was half Afro-American, might be a third Indian and Scottish. There was a woman from Scotland that had been not sold into slavery. This would have happened sometime in the 1700s, but they called it indentured servant. She had milked a cow somewhere in Scotland, and while she milked it, if you never was on a farm, which I was raised on, a cow will kick. A cow kicked the bucket over. Her people that she worked for assumed that she sold the milk. So they brought her up in court. Now this is what one of our ancestors went back and dug this all up. And they sold her into this, not slavery, but indentured servant for, I believe it was 7 years. And the man that run this back, he's still living, but he's not around here. He's up in the northern part of the state. And she worked for 6 or 7 years, and when it was over, she was to get so much land, some cows, and some horses, and then she was done with it. But she didn't get paid for her work before this. Now, do you understand what I mean?
Right.
Okay. She was from Scotland. Her name was, my wife knows her name, Molly. Her first name was Molly, but right offhand, I can't tell you her last name.
Okay.
She bought 2 slaves. Now this was a Caucasian lady, you understand. She bought 2 slaves. One of them wouldn't work, so she got rid of, I don't know what happened, set him free, I think. The other one, she married him. So that was where my background began. Not really began yet, but then there was a child born from, I think, this Tom Bannicky. And one of them's name was Jemima.
Okay.
And this Jemima Bannicky married Sam Lett. And Sam Lett was a white farmer. So then they had children, I think 8 children. One of them was Aquila. Aquila was my great-great-grandfather. So when they moved over here, of course this has been a long time ago, you see, if you were half black and half white, they called you a mulatto.
Right.
If you was 1/4 white, they called you, I know the name, but it's hard for me to grab it now. But anyway, there was a mixed racial background.
Okay.
So this Aquila Lett married Christina Cobbler. Now there's two things on this. I have heard she's a full-blooded German woman. I've heard again she was part half Indian and German. So I have told a lot of people she was full-blooded German. But I find out later maybe she was half Indian and half German.
Okay.
So anyway, then they had kids, and one of them kids was James Lett. That was my great-grandfather. Aquila was my great-great-grandfather. Now, not to confuse this, there was another Lett called Aquila. He lived in Michigan. So there was a lot, the name kind of followed the Letts down. And one of them, his boy, married a what they call a half-breed Indian. Maybe I'm using a derogatory term, but that's what they called it. Don't get my Aquila confused with this one. That kids went to school and they tried to pick him out because he's African American, and they couldn't pick him out. Now don't confuse it with that one. See,
Okay.
mine was the James.
So the Native American or the Indian part of your family came from.
It would have been in Maryland, near Ellicott, I think, Maryland. Yeah.
Okay.
Now the reason I get where I get this at, I think Christina Cobbler was part Indian, because a white person told me that they heard him get up in church one day and talk about he was proud of his Indian ancestry. Well, my grandfather had straight black hair. You could part it forward or backward or anywhere. So I do know he had Indian in him.
Okay.
And he died, he was 84 when he died. He died in Morgan County on Lemon Hill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, since you have so much mixture in your background, how do you define yourself?
Just as an American.
Okay.
That was it. See, I lived in Morgan County. The township I lived in, it was all Caucasian. Practically all Caucasian. Why my dad raised me there? I have no idea. Most of my friends were Caucasian people. You had some problems, but I had lots of friends. I also had some people I knew didn't care for me, but, so I pass it off. Carry no grudge. I don't look back and talk this racial stuff. I figure when this thing changed in '62, don't look in the rear vision mirror. You look out the windshield.
Look forward.
So I hold no animosity to nobody. And that's the way I was raised to do that. And most of my friends were Caucasian. There was a few lived in the next township. But the township I lived in, we and one other family, they began to move out. There were several people lived there, but they moved away. Yeah. So I describe myself as an American. Not one bit ashamed that I come from the African community. It don't matter. That happened before my time. Now, I don't worry about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what were your parents' names?
My parents' name was Sherman Lett, and my mother was Nettie Clifford. And she also lived over in Young Hickory. And while I'm on this subject, they got along pretty good over there. Now, when they first moved there, they sued for a school, and they finally got a school. But it was burnt. They burned it down. So they run and drug the furniture out. I'm just telling you what the old-timers told me.
Okay.
But the stove,
Who burned it down?
well, the Caucasian people, it was they come there, I think it was 1820. A fellow named Calaman was the first one there. They called it the Lett settlement because Letts were the most numerous. And then they started coming from Maryland. They moved to Belmont County, and from there they moved to Meigs Township. And I think it was about 1830 something, which was slavery in the South, but they had come from Maryland. Now you wonder how this Aquila Lett married Christina Cobbler, a white woman. The reason he could do it, it was under English law. This was before the Revolutionary War. England didn't care who you was. You could go to any church you wanted to. There was no segregation laws. Segregation law, I'm telling you what the old timers told me, come about when they become a United States of America, and from then on, they made different laws. But when they got married in the Lutheran Church in Baltimore County, Maryland, that's how that come about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Well, I just thought, you know, it's part of history,
Right.
part of who I am.
Now, do you have brothers and sisters?
No, I had one brother.
Okay.
See, my mom died when I was 6 years old. She had tuberculosis. She had taken care of a TB sufferer, which was my dad's sister. Now, I disagree with him. I wouldn't have let my wife take care of a TB sufferer, even if it was my sister. But see, I had nothing to do with that. And then she picked it up, and she died, I remember. I got a good long-term memory. My short-term memory is no good. For the first reunion was held in Lettelsburg. I was 3 years old, 80 years ago. And I told Robert Lett, you might not believe me, I remember the reunion. Now I don't remember who spoke. I don't remember who was there. I know a Caucasian man took my dad and me and my grandfather there. See, I lived in the country. My dad drove a horse and buggy. He never drove a car in his life. It was a great thing for me to get in this man's nice car and ride over there. So it was one great experience for me. So we got ready to sit down. My grandfather said, where you want to sit, Henry? He always was with me. Me and him was buddies. He said, I'm going to sit on this stump. I said, I'm going to sit on a stump too. They'd cut a bunch of trees. A stump, you know, is where you cut a tree down. And I remember that reunion. Don't remember who was there. I have no idea what they talked about. But I was going to tell you about my mom. She told me, don't come in my room. Don't drink after me. And that was when I was 5 years old. She taught me how to garden when I was 4 and 5. Now, I remember it well. And the year she was 5, she couldn't even do anything. So she taught me this when I was 4 years old. And I heard her fall. And she said, oh, oh. I'm not boring you with this, Emma.
Oh, no.
She said, oh, oh. Well, back in that day, you done as you was told. Nowadays, you don't pay too much attention to the parent. He told me, go get your dad if I would fall. I went to the barn and got my dad. He come back, and he walked in the room, and he come out, and I remember I stood on a picket fence. There's a board here and a board up here. And I remember the picket fell off, and all at once my dad come out of the house and said, boys, your mother's gone. And I never seen such a look on a man's face. And I'd kick the picket off. And they told me, never stand on that, and you'll kick off pickets. And I thought went through my mind, Mom's dead. Who cares about a picket fence? It's just something that I never forgot.
How old were you?
I was 6 years old. I'd turned 6 August the 3rd. She died October the 3rd, 1928. And of course, my dad was like a lot of people. He loses his wife, he starts looking for another and right away. I kind of disagree with that. I don't think you're capable of looking for anybody for at least a year. But he did, and he remarried.
How did you do after your mother passed away?
Well, my grandfather done a lot for me. I don't think it'd have been a living, hadn't been for my grandfather, Judson Lett. He looked after me a lot. I followed him wherever he went. When I was 3 years old, I called him Bamboo because I didn't know how to say Grandpa. And then my dad remarried, and of course my stepmother wasn't the best to me, but I forgive her. And when I growed up, I took care of her, went to the nursing home to see her every day. I'd clean her up in the morning. I've even turned the hose on her. And that was my stepmother. There never was a night when she